think that I no, that's absolutely not true because some people are just mean people. Like, and I think because of past trauma, you can identify that. Like, and with this person, I absolutely liked him. Obviously, I wouldn't have went on a date or anything, but for the reason why he went off was simply, I'm gonna tell y'all the reason, and y'all tell me if he crazy. Okay? He literally, we were together and we both had our chargers. I accidentally took his charger with mine, like you know how you just grab it up all. So by the time I get home, I have text messages, voice messages literally going off on me saying, "Did you send my?" Like it was insane, and I was like, I'm going to Amazon you a charger, today." You know what I mean? And I never talked to him again. And I'm like, he's psycho, he's mean, and he had other signs that he was just a mean person. And I was like, no, I can't. I think that some people just have a mean demeanor, like they're just not nice. He wasn't nice.
Go ahead, Cloud.
All right. Now watching that video, I think that being that these are like obviously like church guys, and I think that usually when it comes to churches, the biggest demographic of people who attend are women. I do think that the advice that they gave was catered to that. Um, Particularly even with the use of the word harsh, right? Because harsh, like if I bring up the definition, it's unpleasantly rough or jarring to the senses, right? And then another definition we have here is having an undesirably strong effect. Now, when you keep those definitions in mind, what happens is that harshness becomes subjective, because again, I'm the one who gets to decide how potent or undesirable the effect of something is, and I'm the person who decides whether something is jarring or not to my senses. And because of that, I think harsh is more so just used as a cop out. Like I think, especially in the dynamic that they were talking about, which is men and women, harsh is usually used to say that whatever you're saying is too jarring to my senses. But that jarring to the senses could be feeling a feeling of being wrong, feeling a feeling of shame for what they've done. There are a lot of negative feelings that are associated with the correct course of action or being corrected. And so I just find that harshness is a word that is often conveniently used to discredit men in general, from giving advice, from holding women accountable, or from even the right to have feelings or the right to be upset. Like if we use an example in Aisha's situation, she took this guy's charger, and men are human, right? So if someone accidentally takes your charger, you have a right to be upset. You have a right to be bothered. You don't know how that could have thrown off the course of his day, his ability to do business, whatever it was that he needed. It may have severely handicapped him for the day. And for him to communicate that he's upset or communicate that concern, whatever the tone in which he did it, to some degree, he has a right to feel upset because you did do something that inconvenienced him. But typically, we don't put a spotlight on what he felt and how he was inconvenienced. The spotlight she put on was in his reaction, and she claims that his reaction was harsh, which seeks to discredit his feelings, really, because again, something happened to him. You didn't lose your charger, he lost his charger. He now doesn't have the ability to charge his phone. That could mean he can't pick up his kids. That could mean that he missed a huge opportunity at work. There's a lot of things. And if he's a person who particularly put his charge in a particular place and wasn't irresponsible, then that inconvenience was at no fault of his own, So so that's one thing I wanted to get at. How she mentioned harsh. Also, another support to my idea on that is what Arya said. She said women have a more sensitive nervous system and can feel under attack a little bit more, and that goes along with the flexibility of the word harsh, because if your nervous system is a little bit more sensitive to certain sounds, maybe one of those sounds might be a lower vibrato voice, a deeper voice tone, which a lot of men naturally have. So if you're a little bit more sensitive to that tone of voice, and a man is speaking in his natural tone of voice, along with telling you something that may make you ashamed of what you've done, or something that may make you feel wrong, that might jar your senses, and that might make you feel uncomfortable and make you feel attacked, and then in your mind it would be justified as calling that harsh. um but again, because it's self-defined, I don't think it's a fair to use the word harsh. On top of that, I think there's a lot of evidence that even though we're saying harshness doesn't work, because that's debatable, right? But I think there's a lot of evidence that a stern or quote unquote more harsh approach is actually more effective. And I think we see that with police officers, how they deal with people. I think sometimes we see that even in a situation of emergency, sometimes a more stern and more direct approach is way more effective at getting people to move. We see it with children. I definitely know that whenever I've had experiences dealing with children, using a more stern and more direct tone is usually a lot more effective than a softer, gentler tone. They usually respond. Even animals, like I've been around women who have tried, oh, calm down, and I tell a dog, hey, relax, and it responds. And then also, I think we have cultural tropes that support this idea, right? We've all heard the term "nice guys finish last." We've all heard that. So if we've heard that culture that nice guys finish last, and that goes against the idea that a less harsh or more gentle approach is more effective even with women, because we see so many circumstances where women don't really have a problem leaving a nicer guy, right? Like a guy who's a little bit nicer will be seen as kind of lame, and those guys get left without much resistance. But we find that toxic relationships, where the behavior and the treatment is much quote unquote harsher, we find that a lot of times there's a hard time for those relationships to end. You'll see that like a woman might go back and forth with someone who's physically aggressive with her or verbally aggressive with her a lot longer than she might do that with someone who's much nicer and much kinder in his approach with her. So I don't know if there's any actual evidence to the idea that this quote unquote less harsh approach is more effective, but I do think that it sounds better. It sounds better. I think it's more culturally acceptable to say that. I think that if you're a decent human being, obviously the best advice that you would try to give is, catch more honeys with vinegar, and to be more soft spoken and to watch your tone. But I really find that really only applies to men. I don't really think that women are told to the same degree that they need to police their tone or the voice that they're speaking with in the same way. And I don't and I think it's very rare that any tone that a woman uses is going to be considered harsh. It might be considered a little mean. It might be considered annoying, but I think it's very rare that I hear a woman expressing negative anything referred to as harsh. So those are my thoughts on it.